compelling experience that it uses a few points on the finger with tracking, a virtual elastic band that you can play with in a 3D space. The way you move and the more dramatic your movements get, the more the music, brings passion. So it really, it's both music and augmented reality and just a lot of fun. You see how he's working within a 3D space, meaning that his hands can move in any direction and obviously utilize both the X, the Y, and the Z axis for the
extremely
experience.
responsive.
Very responsive, and his hands can even occlude one another, and then we really understand their experience.
Wow. So it would be able to differentiate between if one hand is behind another too? Wow. It doesn't lose track. So is it using the same type of camera as like an RGB and?
Nope. It's using a specialized camera that's built into this all-in-one.
Here, you can look at over there.
It's called a depth camera. That's another version of a depth camera, but all the cameras we use give us depth data. So a typical RGB camera is not giving you the depth information in the field, it's simply giving you the color information. And that's not sufficient for our solutions. We don't believe that gives you robust enough experiences like what we're going to show you now.
Okay.
So the next demonstration is what I talked about before. That's Windows 8. That's really enabling a touch interface, which for devices that don't have touch, and giving you a touch, I will say a touch plus experience.
Wow.
So you see how he's able to go into the travel function and maneuver a panoramic picture. Again, he uses the space between the PC and him, not just in a two-dimensional plane, but in a very natural three-dimensional plane. He has all sorts of different types of movements, which are very intuitive to him to control the visual effect.
It appears to be natural too. It almost seems like an extension of 2D gesturing.
And that's the idea here. We'll go beyond that in a minute, and if he goes into an application like Fruit Ninja, which of course everyone loves to do Fruit Ninja, but what we really like to demonstrate inside of Fruit Ninja is the fact that this really also differentiates us. You see how his hand is almost in the same place, and he points. He's not moving all over in an awkward position. He's not making his hand do the work. He's simply pointing with his finger, and it's very responsive and very to his movements. And if he goes and puts 5 fingers up, for example, all of a sudden, bam, you've got your cheating version of, he can even put 10 fingers up. I mean, it doesn't, and there you have it. He scores the highest points that way.
It's extremely impressive.
So now going, there's a painting application. We can basically do anything inside of Windows. We're not limited, but if you would paint, for example, as his finger gets closer, it's almost like pressure. His finger gets closer and the depth gets a wider, and then as he goes further back, it's a finer point. So you're able to, again, manipulate, really utilize the three-dimensional plane to give a different experience. Now, this is all the Windows 8 stuff. The next thing we're going to show you is when you think about an experience beyond Windows 8, really think about 3D, not just taking and enabling a 2D screen to have 3D, but what happens when you want to interface with your content in a different way. So the first thing I'll point out here is, in what you saw in Windows 8 is you see a very grid-like features, right? But your hand doesn't move in a grid. The way Ellie rests his elbow there and he puts his hand on home, his arm goes into an arc motion. So first of all, you want it to be a natural complement of the human movements. So now he goes into an application. He goes to his books. He's got a library of books in front of him. He can bring it closer to him. He can push it further away. He can scroll through his books. And then he can pick a book and say, oh, I'm curious to see. What do you do when you see a book? You look at the back. He turns it around and he says, okay, this looks like a good book. I think I'll read it. He puts his other hand and bam, he's inside his book.
That's impressive.
He goes and he flips his pages. He reads his book. And when he's done his book, he puts his hands together, simply closes it, puts it back on the shelf. And he decides after he's typing away on Windows 8 and he says, oh, I want to put a nice backdrop, and he scrolls through his pictures, and again, he can look on the back of the picture, or he can pull it close to him, and it becomes, if he pulls it close, then it becomes the screen. And if he simply naturally puts it back, then he's back into his pictures. And likewise, he can go and scroll his music collection. Again, you're typing in email, and you say, oh, I want to put some music on. So you could simply lift up your hands, flip to your music, look at it. Yeah, that's the album I